And now, A Native Podcast with Matt and Zach.
And welcome back to another episode of A Native Podcast. I am Zach, and with me as always is Matt Buddy. And I gotta start off that way as always and say, Matt Buddy, how are we doing today?
I mean, you look around you, it's hard to have a bad day. sitting in this today.
I mean, there is some dark clouds behind us.
A little bit.
But we might not get rain today. It's a beautiful day. We're in person, right? That's what's beautiful about it, is we're recording this podcast in person. Beautiful day here. Was it April 21st? Just a wonderful spring day that we're recording. So we're actually able to record it. This is our first podcast in person.
Yes. I was thinking about it, like, we got to do this more. And
yeah.
Right now we're out.
It feels different.
Yeah. Well, so the viewers know, we're out here in Oregon, in Western Oregon. You can see what time of year it is here.
Everything's turning green, and it's a million colors of green everywhere you look, and it's just so pretty. And that's why we're outside. And I'm in Oregon. You're in Oregon. We're able to actually have that conversation in person. We're not in two different states like we normally are.
Well, it's cool because, like, when I come out to Montana enough, you come out to Oregon enough, we're crossing paths enough. It's like, why don't we do one in person?
No, exactly. And we're here doing one today, and I'm excited to be doing one. Before we get started, as always, I gotta ask you, you got a fun fact today for us?
Do I have a fun fact? I feel like I had one about a creature.
Yeah?
Like nutrias.
Nutrias, okay.
Someone was telling me something about nutrias. Oh, yeah, so beavers. People think of Oregon as the beaver state, right?
Yeah, the lake behind us. I saw a beaver actually up there the other day.
Up
higher, there's a dam up higher.
So kind of a sort of fun fact, but not really a fun fact, is people tend to see nutrias a lot more than beavers.
Yeah,
I think there's more of them.
The marmots, right?
Yeah,
that's people refer to them as
rodents,
yeah. That kind of
And you do see them more often, but when you see a beaver, it's like a really special thing when you see one. It's cool you saw one over here.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, beavers are fun to see. Well, that's a good fact.
Oregon's the beaver state, so I guess that's my fun fact.
That's a good fun fact. No, that's a good fun fact, because that's what we're here today to talk about too. Is just kind of recapture everything for our viewers and. Kind of where we've been. We started off on a trail of just kind of educational episodes at first. Really diving into those hard topics, boarding schools. Which I don't know if you saw this today, but the boarding schools they're trying to erase that history. Already, it happened. It's okay. Just let it be.
It's a tough time with some of that stuff with education. Right, and we talked about Native education.
Talk about already the struggles that you're already up against, and then let's throw some more political struggles on top of that. That to me is the kicker with some of those. But I mean, we'll persevere.
That's why people like us have to keep telling the stories, because with boarding schools, it's like that's not. Every Native family has someone, at least one person
that went and attended and was at the boarding school and was with those people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's Canada and the United States, so exactly. That's two countries of it.
Well, and that's it's interesting when you say that, because to me that's that Canadian-U.S. overlap. Mm-hmm. And then you almost get into, there's a different overlap with the Mexican indigenous and the southern, United States indigenous. There's an overlap there in some cases, but it's different because Mexico didn't have boarding schools. Mexico didn't set up reservations. They treated it differently, which is sad because it would be a lot interesting if we saw those people.
Right, yeah, and that's I think at some point we should have someone who is an indigenous person from Mexico talk about that, because that's such an interesting
subject topic
with identity, especially. It's complex.
Well, and when you talk about indigenous, right, what does that mean? You have indigenous tribes in Brazil, you have indigenous tribes in Russia, you have indigenous people on every continent. I mean, it's interesting when you say Asia, even you look at Japan and China. To me, the indigenous people there are kind of is the culture. How it evolved with modern society, almost. The ancient China and the ancient Japanese grew. Mm-hmm. Here, it was different, because it was the Europeans that came and grew here, where we just kind of were here.
we are still here.
Yeah. But,
After the centuries of trying to erase us
yeah, exactly.
and,
And you're just like, why?
I mean, there's so many examples, like you said, around the world, but like, it is cool to sit like this and reflect on what we're year 3 now.
Just about.
Roughly.
I think come August it'll be year
Come
3.
August,
Yeah,
it'll be
where
year
we start 2022 or 2023, I think is when we started, and been going strong for a while. This is, I think, episode 34, 35.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we're doing this recapping, recapturing, getting back to it, doing the podcast.
And those foundational topics, it's kind of, you think about when you're in school, and it's like the textbook days in the beginning.
Yeah.
But they're necessary to build the foundation to understand. You can't understand these other topics without those.
No, you can't, and that's kind of exactly where we're at with exactly what you're saying. Is we're at that point of like, we've built our foundation. We hope you go back and read that foundation, and you listen to our first introduction episode, because like this one today that we're recording, in my opinion, is it's kind of like, hey, here we are again. Who are we? You know, I'm an enrolled Little Shell member living in Montana on a reservation in Montana. You know, when we started this, I was living at my house in Billings. Now I'm living on a reservation in Montana with my wife's family. Kind of, you know, my family's out here in Oregon.
Right.
I'm still there, and it's different. There's a different connection. There's different cultural things that you experience by living where I live now than when we started the podcast. But even just like the cultural things we've experienced in this time, you know, the powwows we've attended, the cultural ceremonies we've attended, the people we've met, the people we've interviewed on this very podcast.
Right. And I think it's interesting with Zach being Little Shell and I'm Oglala, but our upbringings, you grew up in more suburban environments, but now you're living res.
Yeah.
I grew up rural and urban, but both non-res.
Right.
So we bring some interesting
perspectives to
we're
this. Not your traditional natives, but I laugh at that statement because what is a traditional native in 2025?
Right.
We're mixed. We live urban. We have cell phones. We travel. We go places. You do this for work. I do that for work. Right? Like, there's so many complexities that it's like you can't say like, oh, he's more native. They're more native. They do that. Right? Like, it's just, we experience the world as indigenous people of this land differently, but I think our connection to this land, I mean, that's why we're out here, like, let's get outside. You know, we're not sitting in an office room recording this. We're outside, you know?
Right. No, it's really cool. And then I really was getting excited about the interviews.
Yes.
We started to get some really good interviews there. And,
yes.
I don't know if you kind of had some favorites or ones you enjoyed, but I've enjoyed every single one of them in some way.
I have. They've all been educational. They've all been wonderful. They've all had that, like, just awe factor, something to learn. I mean, I learned something from every single one. You know, you talk about, like, my grandma's, like, she's an 80-year-old lady out here teaching, you know, speaking to us like she's 20, you know what I mean? Right. You're just like, all right, cool. Like, you know, you've been around the block. And then you had, like, Gerald and the drama that his interview brought us. I mean, that brought Sarah Scamcow and her idiots all out and about. And yeah, we got to deal with that problem and update you guys on that. You got to experience that with me for a little bit. And then
I enjoyed Gerald's too because you hear the complicated process of becoming a state, or being a state tribe as you guys were, to you're setting up a whole government, right?
From scratch.
And he even said,
and they're giving you pennies to do it.
Right.
You're not getting, like, it looks like a lot of money, but in the reality of the world, it's not. You know, they'll say, like, oh, you got this and that. Well, you have to spend that percentage on this part. You have to spend this. Every penny is watched. It's crazy how that is. It makes me not want to get into tribal politics because you're like, yikes. You know, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna just educate where I can.
Well, he even said, I remember when you guys got recognized, and he's like, man, it's a lot more red tape than I thought. Like, it's and you you don't see them with our G&G work as much.
No.
It takes a lot to run the tribe. It really,
It's a full-time job, and the fact
Yeah.
that he's been doing it for free for 20 years almost now, 10 years, 15 years,
That's
whatever.
crazy.
He's been on council, you know, and then he was vice chairman before, all that. But
Well,
that was
as a Lakota, I'm gonna always put in his ear the buffalo.
well, we're the Buffalo tribe. What are you talking about?
Hey, now, well, we could debate some of those ones. We're over here debating.
Westernmost
Then
Ojibwe.
you got the Comanche. Hey, now, some other plains group.
exactly.
Like,
We had 'em down
we had
south.
'em down there too,
Well, that was the thing. That was the culture. That was the
like Toos or somebody, you know.
yeah.
Like,
No,
hey,
exactly.
Comanche now.
But that was the thing. That's that. When we talked about that on last episode, was the bison
Right.
and the herds, the size of those herds. You know, the fact that they went from Canada to Mexico. You know, the railroad wanted to decimate the bison, and it's not a good thing. You know, you look at the dams, and how the dams, sure, they make jobs, they make some energy, but they get outdated and they ruin the wildlife habitats. Look at the salmon. Look at the way the salmon on some of those rivers that dams have come down.
Right.
Already, the positive results. I'm not hearing about negative results. I'm hearing
No.
about positive results.
No. I mean, the Klamath is they've been fighting for that for a very long time
Yeah.
down there on the Oregon-California border. And it's,
Elwha
it's
up to
funny,
Washington.
I'm looking, we're
Yeah.
actually sitting on kind of like a
This is a dam.
rock dam,
This is a
essentially,
dam.
for this little
This
reservoir.
creek, yeah.
Creek watershed. And, you know, maybe at one time there was salmon that came up this small stream. You see the videos of them in those.
On roads even, like
Yeah.
crossing the road when it's flooding, and you're
Yeah.
like, that's really cool to watch and see. Definitely.
Well, and that should be something, and we've talked about this, to talk about the salmon culture in a similar way to the
Yes.
bison episode. And,
No, I think so. The salmon
And,
people is definitely something we need to talk about, and diving into those cultures and the things that, you know, those larger regional groups,
Right.
because again, I want to say our tribes, the way they rounded up tribes and put us on reservations and did what they did. You know, we as Native people have, like, we've always known we're our tribe or our family, but we've intermarried.
Yeah.
There's so much documentation of ancient intermarryings happening throughout history. You know what I mean? Like Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman in 1803, right? That's when they met her in Mandan. She was 1803 was in Mandan, North Dakota. A whole state, you know, hundreds of miles across, and here we are. You know, like all these trade routes, all these things, they existed. Yeah, and
Well, it's crazy, like you mentioned the intermixing, and I think of Joseph's interview with Grand Ron.
Yeah, that was a good interview.
30 bands of people, like here, this area was like the Tualatin, Kalapuya, or like this band, right? But Grand Ron's like 30 bands, and it's like, it's kind of hard to have one language,
yes,
but they developed it through
Right.
a mixture, right? So,
well, trade.
yeah.
You need things. You see things you don't have. You know, man is that way. Like, and then natural curiosity. You know, you get to a place. Let's walk around.
Right,
What's over that hill?
right.
What's under that tree? What's under that rock? I want to look at it because that's human nature. That's nature's nature. You know, even sit here and watch birds. You know, they're going to flip over a stone, checking for bug underneath
They're
or whatever.
looking- yeah.
Yeah.
It's that term, leaving no stone unturned.
Yeah,
right?
it really is,
and
yeah.
You're checking because there could be a resource there.
Exactly, and that's just nature.
I know with you in Montana, and I've been in enough of Montana to see there are some interesting vast differences between far western Montana
Yes.
and eastern. And the tribes in the prairie lands of the east are like, they know the berries and the roots are in the mountains more, where like Flathead Valley
Yep.
is, for example. And then in the east, it's like, okay, that's where more of the bison are, and like different environment, different resource.
We'll come over in August to go hunt the bison naturally, or whenever those seasons were. Exactly. No, that's exactly it. The interview with TJ and Francis, another good interview we had. That I really enjoyed talking with them. That was our first couple interview. That's how it's fun to talk about that, the growth of the podcast. You know, you look at in the early days, you know, we wanted to do interviews, but now actually after doing a few, it's cool. It's fun.
I'm looking forward to continue, and we've learned a lot between some of those Montana interviews. The Crow Cheyenne are just so, talk about intermixing, right?
Well, I mean,
that's such a thing there.
You don't want to date your cousin, so we'll date the neighboring tribe.
Nope. Traditional enemies or not.
Shoshones and Arapahoes down in Wind River, they used to be enemies, and now how many Shoshone Arapahoes are out there? That's crazy.
It's crazy. And they got like two tribal councils and then one like combined. That's such an interesting, unique area.
It'd be fun to actually interview someone from there just to talk about that aspect of of what is that like? How is that? Because I'm sure it's not an easy government.
Right.
You know, I'm sure like some of those California governments, you know, there's 15 members. How easy is that?
Well, and I know you haven't seen it much, but I rewatched the 1883 series as part of the Yellowstone. And when they went through Wyoming, and you mentioned this a lot, Wyoming in particular was a very
mean state.
Anti-native. Their police force when they passed in this series was some cattlemen's association that self-proclaimed themselves as police.
Yes.
And
as
it
the cattle
showed
police,
that, and
basically,
I'm like, and these guys coming through like, well, who are you? And they're like, well, who are you? And then they just shot him because,
that's how it was. It was, and that makes sense. And you say the Wild West, in that it really truly was wild. I mean, free in a way too. I get the American freedom. I mean, in America now, I don't know necessarily if those same freedoms exist. You know, where it's like I am going to go up in the mountains and be a nobody and do nothing. You know, and build my own stuff and live off the land. You can't necessarily do that in our day and age. And times change and people change, and here we are. You know, and we're gonna take a break. We're gonna go to music on A Native Podcast.
And now music on A Native Podcast. This week, Frank Walm, My Stone.
Yeah. 89, we say hello. He says goodbye, daddy left when I was 4. It made us cry, you and I. Clyde and Bonnie of modern day. Drama came and friends left, but mama stayed through everything. All the fights and all the pain, all the change. I hate my dad, don't want his name. Told my mom that I'm a one, didn't understand all the things going on between her and my dad. But I was stubborn, I know that I make it hard. You always said, son, I know you're gonna make it far. Believe that, I need that in dark times. I think of what you did for me and my heart shines. You took my hand up this mountain, made it your climb. So when I shine, mom, you shine. Yeah, single mother with the yard stack. Raise the king, one day he'll bring it all back. Lived all my life, just me and you. Times got tough and you see me through. I ain't have a dad, we have a plan. Raised by a woman who made me a man. I know I ain't home when your boy is grown. I need you to know that you're not alone. I can let it rock, you will be my stone. Forever in my heart, you will be my stone. My stone. Away, 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 my stone. You always gave me what I wanted, somehow always found the time. Single parent, it's apparent that you stayed up on your grind. I remember you would put me first. It was hard, but you said, son, it could be worse. You were right, it's funny, looking back, days were sunny. You kept me smiling even though we didn't have the money that other families did. Somehow you made it happen. I promised mom that I'm gonna do it with this rapping. You took me everywhere, my cap in my backpack. 20 years later, now I'm rapping in snapbacks. Rocking a long braid, we came a long way. You kept me on the red road, away from the wrong way. Forever I'm grateful for the life you gave. Tears that we cried, sacrifice you made. Yeah, single mother with the yard stack. Raise the king, one day I'll bring it all back. Lived all my life, just me and you. Times got tough and you see me through. I ain't have a dad, we have a plan. Raised by a woman who made me a man.
And that was Frank Waln, My Stone. Thank you for listening to Music on a Native Podcast, where we like to feature Native American artists and musicians. Now, back to the podcast.
That was Music on a Native Podcast. Always fun to listen to those. I mean, it was fun to get that one from Frances and her niece saying, "Hey, let's play my niece." It's like, yeah, that's why we do this. This is what Music on Native Podcast is about.
I thought it was cool that she brought that up. And like her niece, right?
Yeah.
That does that, and it's really cool because that's how you find out about some people, you know, that may need some exposure. Oh, yeah. And just like, oh no, they're good. Like,
look at Stella Standing Bear. She is blowing up. At the very beginning of our podcast, I think we shared a couple of her songs, and she wasn't as big at the time, but now she is. She was giving away like $1,000 the other day to somebody, and I was like, "Shit, girl, sign me up."
Hails from Pine Ridge. Too.
Yeah. Always good to see that. Always good to see that. You know, we've had some good episodes over the years. We've had the Tribes and Treaties, which is a fun series I think we've gotten into, talking about different tribes as well as the treaties that involve them. Because you learn every tribe's different. Every treaty that they signed had different meanings. Even the same treaty, when it gets ratified and changed and changed and changed, you know, we learn that.
Well, some like overlap areas as when we were researching. It's like, so those Oklahoma ones are going to be fun when we get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. I mean, that's why they have a lot of land. And when you look at the way, I mean, the Trail of Tears and how it set up Oklahoma as Indian land, and I think I want to argue, and I need to do more of my research on it. My internal research on it is, you know, we were talking about Wyoming and how the people in Wyoming were that way. Towards natives, and they really were kicking them out of the state, doing the cattle stuff. And my understanding, because it's really hard to find this research, is that Montana was going to be set up similar to how Oklahoma was set up for the natives. And I don't quite necessarily think all of Montana, maybe more so the eastern side, where the reservations are off of the mountains.
Right.
Because there were a lot of tribes trying, like the Northern Cheyenne, for example, trying to go to Montana, knowing that land was there. So I don't know if it was kind of that talk in the late 1800s of like, go to Montana if you want to be safe. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like almost fear, you know, motivated by fear. But definitely something that I wanted to point out.
That is interesting. Well, in that eastern Montana is a lot of open land. I almost wonder if what you're saying, they maybe tried to push more of the Sioux out of the Dakotas into that because it's more barren, right?
I think that, and then where the Dakotas, but then I think the Dakotas, part of their name being the Dakotas, is Sioux, right? Saying that's Sioux territory. And it's funny how all our states have those names, right? Like, are named after the tribe or the tribal people of that area because that was theirs.
That's exactly.
Well, who is Wisconsin? Well, it was the tribal people that lived here before we stole it from them.
Right. Well, it's like around here, like you hear Tualatin and Clackamas and Multnomah and like Calapooya, and it's like, you know, people, what's that? The natives. Oh, that makes sense.
The names of the places.
It's like, to us, it's like automatic, but to people of other backgrounds, they don't really
get
associate that.
They don't get it.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
I've enjoyed the tribes a lot. We did Eastern Cherokee was our last tribe. Yeah,
our first one was Hopi.
Yep.
Learned some things. We talked about the Seminoles down in Miccosukee down there, down in Florida.
Yep.
We've highlighted, I think the Oglalas. We highlighted your tribe. You know, definitely have some more to highlight. I mean, there's 574 federally recognized tribes, so we'll be here for a while.
Yeah, I'm curious because there's talk, you know, we've heard talk with the change in president administration about the Lumbee.
Yes.
And I'd be curious to see if they officially do get recognized. And there's a few tribes in Virginia also fighting for.
And the Lumbee's been one for a while. I mean, if you're familiar with the podcast, you're familiar with the Lumbee, and that's kind of something for us that is good.
The head coach of Houston men's basketball team,
Kyle Sampson.
Yeah, Lumbee tribal member, and that's
They were so close to winning a national championship.
Very close.
This close.
Very close.
It was so close, which should have been cool to see for him because he gives back to his community and really takes care of his basketball teams, and he's a good guy. Definitely. He'd be a fun interview. I mean, that's the thing as we do our interviews too, man. Getting some of those bigger names, it'd be nice to get Superman or somebody like that.
Get a native athlete at some point.
A native athlete, yeah, maybe Marjan Beauchamp.
A Marjan or Lindy Waters.
Lindy
or
Waters,
someone.
yeah. Just reach out, shoot them an email one day, maybe.
Right.
Maybe they'll want to be on.
Right.
Or if you're listening in, as always, G&G at gng.net. That's G and then N and then G and then .net and or at gng.net.
I check it about once a week now. So,
once a week,
so
you've
not
upped it.
once a month. I've upped my checking that email, but we get some good feedback. We had someone reach out recently about maybe native religion,
which is not a bad topic.
Yeah.
I think native religion, you dive into the ceremonial stuff, powwow, and how it's taken some of those ceremonial dances and turned them into more of a recreational activity,
right?
A competitive, activity in that sense, where
Right.
they have the competitions, the dances, the payouts, all that.
Right.
Definitely a fun subject, a tough subject too.
Yes.
You got to do your research on it because it's not the same for every tribe. We burn sweetgrass differently than you burn sweetgrass.
Right.
Similar in probably the respect of the items.
Yes.
But I'm going to do it when I'm sad or happy or this or that. That's going to vary by clan even.
Right.
Fuck the tribe. Clan. I'll go, your family's going to do it differently than Joe's family. You know what I mean?
Crazy. The Pueblos and their dances.
Yeah.
Then you got the ones that blend Christianity, like Oklahoma blends some Baptist with like Muskogee Creek.
Arguably, Native American church is kind of a blend in that. And that's kind of, I think, the route I would want to take is there's so much about the Native American church that, and what they were fighting for.
Right.
I don't necessarily believe, that's not my religion.
Yeah.
But I understand what they were fighting for, and some of that supports my beliefs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, yeah, I do believe in the spiritualness of the plants and animals around us and the harmony we live within them.
Well, and I'm fascinated in a little bit of that with you hear Quanah Parker and the peyote.
Yes.
Down south, that's kind of the church, and that was kind of like how that started with the peyote, and then the government outlawed all these things at one time. So
exactly.
And then in this area, the Northwest, there's a lot of the Shaker Church, and the brief one-liner I know about it is it's a blend of Christianity and native religion, like the Yakimas and Warm Springs are big on that.
I feel like arguably that's kind of Métis. You know what I mean? The Métis people of Canada and a little bit that are here in the U.S. But that it's that hey, we're accepting the native way of life on these lands. We understand their ancestors necessarily weren't the first people of these lands, but they've been here so long that they said we've accepted the rule of these lands. Or you think about it, we go to Germany, we got to live by German rules.
Right.
They came to America back in the 1700s and said, we're going to live by Native American rules.
Right.
Where it's open and free and yada, yada, yada. And I think part of that, they didn't discover America.
No.
I want that to be known. They didn't. The Scandinavian people were very smart people. They sold books. They told stories of North America, of the indigenous people of North America. And they probably told stories of the freedom. Of they just live on the land. They don't build fences. They don't build walls. They don't build buildings. They build just what they need. They're very built on need society. And that got translated. And over time, you take the UK. And that's who came over, right? Spain, that's who came over.
France.
Those countries that would have those resources to have that knowledge would come over, and they were like, we could take opportunity. There's opportunity. Look at Musk with Mars. There's opportunity. People see opportunity in anything, right?
Yeah, it's what you're saying makes me think of a lot about the groups that came here to colonize, or Europeans that went elsewhere in the world to colonize another place, right? They didn't come with the same kind of respect of the original ways. It's like when you and I like travel, like when you went to Africa, right? You're probably going in like just doing a little research of like basic, like don't do this, it might offend them.
Yeah, don't do like was it Richard Nixon did the peace sign
Yeah.
somewhere where you weren't?
Right.
It was like the middle
Right.
finger, basically. It's
Right.
2 fingers,
And it doesn't take a lot to just kind of just be aware of those simple.
be
like,
aware.
Yes.
You see it driving. People are not aware.
No.
You need to be aware.
No. It's a respect thing, and unfortunately, a lot of American tourists, they go visit and they expect to be catered to, and it's like,
It's not how it works. That's not the
Yeah.
foreign experience. You're
Right.
going to experience something different,
right,
not the same,
right,
right? And that's part of it. And that's like when that guy in Africa that runs the hotel has a mattress behind the desk because he's going to sleep there at 2 in the morning because he has guests,
right.
but he'll wake up to work when someone walks in, and like you feel bad walking in because you're like, no, we just came home from a wedding, keep sleeping, bro. We're going up to my room, like I don't need anything from you.
Right.
But it's that's different world. You're in his place. He's going to take care of us. He's going to take, you know what I mean? He's going to take care of his guests.
Well, I think of it just with the tribes here, and you and I have been to a lot of them, and
Yeah.
like how I participated in a pipe ceremony at Montana State for the
Yeah.
ground blessing of the Native Student Center, and that
Yeah.
was before I left and didn't get to see the completed building, but
Still haven't.
it was having like, okay, this is a Plains tradition.
Yeah.
And then we go from the longhouse at Oregon State and go to Silet's longhouse, and they have their little round door, and you spin around, right? It's kind of like you're leaving all the negative out and going in with positive, fresh, and that's all it is, and that's their way, and every group has
So
their
you
way
take
that you're
that.
respecting.
You take just that simple one tribe spinning in a door to bring in that freshness. I grew up Catholic. What do? We go to church, dip our hand in the holy water.
Holy water.
What's the difference?
Yeah, right.
What's the difference?
Well, you
the
take-
Pope just died today. What's
Yeah,
the difference?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah, or you take the communion, right? The grape juice and the bread, and
when I eat the bison,
And,
that's sacred.
that's
Because he not only built my home, but he's my food and my tools and but I'm not going to go kill all of them because I need them to live and survive and to be healthy and to grow, right? We weren't an overconsumption society.
No.
We like I said, we would go hunt a bison, it would last us for a while, and then we say, I'm tired of bison, let's go get a deer.
Let's go get a deer.
We'll eat a deer for a week.
Yeah.
And you eat off that. You work on his bones, you work on his tools, whatever. Like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. But it's crazy, too, because it's 2025, and here we are saying, let's buy our sweatshirts.
Yeah,
We're a native
right,
company
right.
doing that. So it's a different mindset. It's a different world
it's
we're
a
in.
different world.
Did you know there's a new native apparel company?
No, I did not.
It's called Shop LS 574, named after the 574 federal tribes and the Little Shell descendancy of its founders.
Wow, that's really cool, man.
It is. It is becoming a spot to order native apparel by and for natives, working with native designers and teams to help best represent Indian country.
That's awesome, dude.
For sure. Now make sure to go pick up some Native podcast swag as well as other native gear while shopping at shopls574.com.
Oh, yeah. And do not forget to use code ANP10 to save on your next order.
That's ANP10. Hey Matt, did you know there's a tribally owned net company?
No, I did not.
Not only are they tribally owned, but Blue Ribbon Nets also creates totally sustainable products. With Blue Ribbon Nets, not only are you getting quality nets, but even eco-friendly ones as well.
That's awesome, dude.
It sure is indeed. Make sure to use code RUGAROO10 on your next Blue Ribbon Net order to save. Again, the code is RUGAROO10, RUGARU10.
I am definitely getting a Blue Ribbon Net now.
Tune in every Tuesday to hear your favorite native podcast.
That's right. A Native podcast has new episodes every week. ranging from boarding schools to Indian child welfare.
Not only that, but we have Indian country covered, from Maine to California and Florida to Alaska, Hopi to Blackfeet and Choctaw to Tlingit, and all those Crees in between.
And all you other natives and non-natives out there, we want to remind you to tune in this Tuesday to A Native Podcast. Yeah, I think of like a lot of the American people go visiting a tribe. If you go visit, go in with the same mindset as if you're visiting another country, with respect, because you are visiting a sovereign nation.
It's sovereign nation, yes.
Right. And then I still see videos of the tourists that go to Cancun to the Mayan pyramids, and they're running up.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, actually, yeah.
And it's like this ancient indigenous structure that's very sacred to the Mayans. You're going to go disrespect it?
You're going to disrespect the people that built it, and then the people that take care of it,
right?
And their families and everyone
that still live there in the jungles. The Mayan peoples and groups
still have their beliefs.
It's
no, I get it. I mean, I look at Glacier Park and Yellowstone and those places that were those lifebloods of tribes and of indigenous people, and it's sad because it's almost as if it's a prison for that nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they bottled it up and said, here it is, where it's like, that's just how it used to be.
Right.
It used to be, we could enjoy our day today. You know, we didn't have to work 9 to 5 and work our asses off. And that's the, I don't know, that's the indigenous perspective to me. And however we can get back to that would be nice. But, you know, we got to look forward to the future on top of that.
Yep.
And, you know, we have future episodes coming out every other Tuesday. That's about kind of the schedule we've gotten down to.
Yeah. No, we make it work. We adjust. I'm looking forward to some of these interviews. It's nice to do this because, you know, maybe every year or whenever we do some sort of recap.
These recaps are good to have. And that's kind of why I thought it was good to talk about, just because here we are reminiscing on what we've accomplished. It's weird to say that because it doesn't feel like you accomplished something, but frick, we've published 30 episodes.
We're growing. It was very rough in the beginning, but now we're flowing better in our conversations.
We figured it out. This is new. This will get better. The in-person will get better. It's different. It's different sitting here and talking. It's natural. I mean, we talk to each other enough, so it's not like this is hard to do, but normally I'm looking at you like this.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to these, you know, doing some more tribes, getting some different kinds of people, you know.
Yes.
I don't...
Different backgrounds, different culture. Like you said, the indigenous, it'd be cool to get like a Métis person from Canada.
A Canada person.
A Canadian native.
Yeah.
You talk about the reserves, the Alaska native. You know, there's so many different people.
Native Hawaiian.
Yes.
Even, you know, and I know kind of going forward, we talked about maybe a couple more of like your family members, maybe for a few, and what they've done. That canoe paddle guy from Washington. You know, I have a few connections. Indigenous glass blower. Looks like we got a helicopter in the sky.
Helicopter flying up right here. Yeah. So if you hear that, that's a helicopter. Not ours. We can't afford that.
We don't have a launch pad on top of it.
We don't have a budget for this podcast.
So if you know of some grant opportunities, email us.
Yeah, email that. He'll respond to that one fast.
That one will be quick.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's cool to highlight, you know, we did your instructor.
Yeah, Reno. We did Lou.
Louie White there. We did my buddy Brian McGay, who still has a job after federal cuts in Arizona. So far, he's staying there. So
he hasn't changed. No new interview with him. No new job.
Right.
Oh, you're doing what now? With what tribe? Oh, get on the podcast.
We might reach the point where we interview the same person 3 times. We're like, you've had 3 jobs in 3 years.
Yeah.
doing
different stuff.
Different stuff, man. Like, gotta be adaptable.
Did museums and then plants. Now you're doing cars.
Joseph,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He's gonna be the guy in different.
He better
roles.
be listening because we're talking about him.
Yeah. No, I'm real excited. I like what we're doing. We're getting good feedback. We're doing some firsts now. Switching it up and
growing. I think that's the big thing is we're growing, and when I look at it and I thank the users, thank you guys, the followers. It keeps us going. I mean, if we were kind of putting along, getting like 10 views here, 1 view there, I don't think we'd be doing it as much. But we've had that steady growth, and that's why we do it. And part of it's fun, the education, all of that. But I mean, final words?
Yeah, no, I'm the very beginning was Zach's idea, but then he wanted to involve me because we have these conversations, whether it's work stuff with G&G advertising or it's just the conversations we have about tribal issues, and I was on board because I've learned a lot, and I enjoy meeting these people in our interviews and doing the research, and they're always going to be something to talk about in Indian country going forward.
No, so. It is, and that's the thing is it's not out there. We want to be out there and be there for Indian country because we do have this knowledge that we can share, and we do share it. We do I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to this podcast, I think of when we were at the Stanford powwow, and that guy working behind the desk was just, "What's a powwow?"
Right.
What, we have one of those here? What do you mean? There's native people in California? But it was that, oh my gosh, this is something that intrigues me, that interests me, that I didn't know about. And it's right here and it is in my back door, essentially. You walk down the street and go attend the event.
And it's arguably, it's funny he said that because that's probably the largest college-run powwow in the country.
Really?
Largest and oldest.
Is it the oldest?
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought is it the one? So that you might be right, because I think behind Stanford is like Montana State, and MSUB.
Right after.
They're like the top 5. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Stanford, it is the
May,
largest
right?
for attendance. Yes,
Mother's Day weekend powwow.
Yeah. And that guy didn't know about it. It was so crazy to me.
And that's why I think we need to do this. Is how many people are here living in America that don't really understand the indigenous population, and how can we help?
Right.
That's all I want to do. How can we help a little bit?
Well, a lot of it's the awareness, as you always mention. Like, it's creating awareness, it's educating, it's highlighting people doing good things in Indian country. Your grandma, non-native, who is been around natives her whole life.
60 years.
Other ones, natives, different regions, different ages, tribal chairmen, plant nursery workers.
Yeah. Paul.
Instructors, architects.
Yeah, he's done it all.
It's great, and we'll continue. We'll continue getting all these people.
We'll find them, and we'll bring them to light, because I think it's good to share that information. It's good to have a platform, a channel, a place. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. You can find us. We're there. I don't got much more to say, but other than that, enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Until next time, bye-bye!
I know chiefs, I know riders from the east, I know educated natives down to picket in the streets, middle fingers to police, fuck you, we come in peace. I know red-skinned hippies that be giving me the creeps. I know beauty, I know beach, I know savages and freaks, and I know a couple cousins even bougier than me. No, ain't elite, bougie native, yes indeed. Art exhibit to the club, and we roll it 20 deep. Copper on my neck, gold on my ring, feather on my hat, skin stitched chin, 100 warriors on my back, they be drumming when I sing, man there ain't no way around it.
A Native Podcast is produced by G&G Advertising and Quartz Lake Productions.